Happy Tuesday, everyone. You are listening to Author's Best Friend podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and I'm here today with my new bestie, Jenna Rogers. Jenna, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking water today. I actually have to log back on for work after this.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, it's been so hot, like here in California, that I don't blame you for drinking some water. But is it warm where you are? Is it warm in Washington?
It has been the past week. It's starting to cool down, which makes me really sad. I love the warm weather, so I'm not ready for it to go away.
I maybe could have guessed that based off of your book. And I'm having a peach strawberry seltzer. So cheers. Excited to chat with you. Okay, so Jenna is author of Where the Sun Lights the Shadows, which released in the May of this year. And that's now available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. And you're currently working on a cowboy romance series. The first book is called Putting Down Roots, and it's going to come out sometime next year, which is very exciting. Before I jump into my thoughts about the book, because I finished it recently, do you want to just give a little blurb on Where the Sun Lights the Shadows?
Yeah, it's a friends to lovers summer romance told through dual timelines. So I always like to kind of compare it to Every Summer After by Carly Fortune or Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, kind of those vibes. But essentially, it's about this girl, Emma, and she spends every summer at the lake. She grew up spending every summer at the lake and would always hang out with the two kids next door who happen to be her age, Rebecca and Andrew, and kind of getting to explore them growing up together, and then also the aftermath of Rebecca actually has an accident, and Emma and Andrew kind of explore what life looks like after her death together, and they fall in love along the way.
Okay, so if you're listening to this right now and you haven't read this book, I recommend you hit pause and you go run and you go read it in 24 hours like I did, and then you come back and listen to the rest of this, because it is so good. Jenna, I was so impressed. And if you listen to the podcast, you know this, but I don't really read synopses or really try to know very much about books before I jump into them, especially when they're guests on the show, because I really just kind of want to go in blind, and it's kind of fun for me to just see what emerges. I usually have a general sense of is this going to be a sports romance or, some of the main tropes, but for the most part, I didn't really know very much about the book at all. You started us off with a doozy, but the whole book was so nostalgic. I just felt like a fresh-faced 16-year-old with nothing to worry about but my crush and what book I was going to buy at the bookstore. It did so good. The nostalgic images that come up the book. It was such a joy to read, and it actually makes me sad that I'm on the end of summer. It's such a good summer read. And so for anyone who's also feeling the end of summer, then you should go read it. But I have so many questions and so many thoughts, because like I said, the book is it's really good and it's very cute. Where did you get this idea of it also kind of reminds me a little bit of The Summer I Turned Pretty, because I think you do a really nice job of showing Emma, who's the main character. You show her development over time. You don't really talk very much about what she's like when she's not here during the summer, but kind of heard little snippets of her development over the summer from when she's what is she, 9 when she first goes or something? She's very young, up until 19, which is also very nostalgic. But yeah, how did you come up with the idea for this?
It actually came to me in a dream.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had a dream one night, and I don't know, I always have these really crazy dreams, but this one in particular, I knew that I was seeing the world through someone else's eyes. I knew I wasn't Jenna in the dream.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah. I don't know, it was weird, but I was talking with this boy that I in the dream knew well, and we were at his house for this annual barbecue that they had every year, but it was the first year since his sister had died, and I was asking him all these questions about what happened to her. He was answering me a little bit at first, but kind of being weird about it, and then finally at the end he kind of got frustrated with me and was like, I don't know, the book hasn't been written yet. And I woke up and started plotting Where the Sun Lights the Shadows.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. Wait, you didn't know the boy in real life?
No.
It's not like somebody you knew? And do you know anyone who's lost a sibling?
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you did that dream justice, because the book is very good. Wow, that's wild. Is that where your idea for your next book came from? I'm guessing no. That seems like a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
No, unfortunately it was not. I think this one honestly the next one came a lot from some life experience, and I think a little bit of just daydreaming.
Yeah, that's crazy. This is like a very, I don't want to say that it's a heavy book. It is in some ways, but I thought something that was really interesting that you did was starting off the book with a tragedy and then sort of building up the characters from there. Like Rebecca, who's Andrew and Rebecca are twins, fraternal twins, and Rebecca is the one who has an accident and she passes away. I love her. Like she's a dream best friend. Like she's the greatest. And because you know what happens to her in the beginning when you're reading all of these older chapters and it's like kind of reflecting on the friendships, like it just feels very sweet. Like you're kind of mourning that you know where this is going, but like it's you still just like love her so much. And then you also don't spoil it, but you do these little things later on that, you know, kind of make her a part of it. And even when she's passed, and it's just like it's very touching. And so I'm curious about how you decided to start the book with the tragedy rather than like really wrecking the reader and like making us fall in love with Rebecca and then putting it like, you know, chapter 20 or something.
In my mind, there was honestly, I'd never even considered another way to start the book, which is weird. I think maybe a little bit with the dream, I think kind of dictated a little bit how I approached writing the book. But I think also I kind of just wanted to have that background going in and helping the reader to understand like what was going on, because I think it'd be really hard to reveal that later, just because all of the present day chapters are really like navigating the aftermath of that.
So it had never crossed, like it was never a thought to do like start with summer 9 and like build all the way up to summer 18 and then
Yeah, I think I wanted to get your attention from the beginning. I realized, I think, after having, I had my parents read it before I published it, and my mom would text me every time my dad cried reading it.
oh my gosh.
So I think that was when it kind of hit me that it was like a sad book. Because I mean, I guess I knew, but I think it hadn't hit me the same way. Like I didn't realize because I wrote it, I think it doesn't have the same effect on me. Like, I don't want to say it's not as believable because I get gripped like, every time that I go back through and look at it. But yeah, I think just because I wrote it, it just feels different.
You didn't cry when you were writing it at all?
No, I did not.
Well, that's impressive because I definitely cried. You bounce timelines, which I think is also really fun. And you draw fun parallels of like, this is this thing that happened when they were 12, and now here's this thing that's happening when they're 17. Did you write like a bunch of chapters in a row in one sequence and then stagger them? Or did you write alternating timelines? Like, right, here's a summer 9, here's a summer 18, and go back and forth like the book is.
Well, I think it was interesting because when I started writing Where the Sun Lights the Shadows, I really was writing it just for fun. Like the idea came to me and I've always loved writing. So I was like, oh, this will be something fun to do. And I would just do it in my spare time. So there really was like very little plotting. I kind of just would write on a whim, whatever came to me that day.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. I mean, now that I'm writing my second book, I'm somewhat like, how the heck did I do that? But it worked for this one. And it was a lot of like, I wrote it pretty much the way that it is in the book. I did go back during the editing stage and I had like wrote out an entire, like I have a whole page where I have like each chapter, like what age they were and what happened in it, and kind of went through and made sure that the order of the chapters made sense. So like some of them kind of got rearranged from the way I wrote it, but I think I kind of had an idea in my head while I was writing too. Like, I know that I need to show this when they're younger in order for this thing when they're older to happen and make sense. So there was a little bit of that as I was writing in the back of my mind.
Well, it's really well planned out. Like there are like no inconsistencies, and I edit, and so I'm always looking for like, well, that didn't quite match out. You have no inconsistencies for somebody who didn't do like largely plot planning. This is how you know this was a meant to be book, because the idea just came to you in a dream and you just wrote it and everything worked out. I agree with what you're saying when you were like, I don't necessarily see it as like a sad book, like when I'm reading it, because like it has a very sad event and the characters are working through that. And that's sort of like one of the main plot points of the book, but it feels very optimistic and lighthearted and fun and just very sweet. Are you pulling from like, does your family like go to a lake every summer, or like is this pulling from like real experiences you've had?
I grew up going to the lake with friends sometimes. My family didn't have a cabin, but I had friends in high school, middle school that had cabins that we would go to. And I think more recently, my boyfriend's best friend has a lake cabin in Idaho, and we've been going the last couple summers for the 4th of July. And so I think that was pretty fresh in my memory. I drew a lot from that. And like on my social media, there's a lot of videos that I've taken from visiting the lake there and used. So that's definitely what I drew from like those experiences because I always had so much fun.
Yeah, like especially the scene of them like getting pulled on the tube. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that took me back. Like I could see it so clearly. Like being a kid, going, yeah, usually it was like with a family friend, like going with them, and you're like sitting next to the other 11-year-old that's like kind of cute, but you're kind of too young to think too much about that. But you're hanging onto the tube, getting whipped around the lake. Like it was, yeah, it was so fun to read scenes like that. Is Andrew modeled after your boyfriend?
A little bit. I mean, I don't think that I tried to intentionally, but there's definitely pieces of him in there. I remember my mom told me after she read it, she's like, it kind of reminds me of your boyfriend.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
a big compliment. Andrew's really
yeah,
great.
he likes to say that he has a book based off of him now, and I'm like, let's not get carried away.
Has he read it?
Yes, he did. He read it before it came out and he liked it. I remember it was so hard because we lived together. And so he would be reading on the couch or something, and I'm over at my desk writing or editing. And I like could not watch him because it would make me so nervous. I went into the other room one day and he came in to tell me, like, I got sucked in.
Oh, that's the best compliment.
Yeah.
Was he a reader like before this? Like, does he typically read?
No. He'll read like business books or things like that, but or
Blech.
sports books. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, not really.
Well, I've been trying to ask you about your inspiration for my favorite scene in the book. And my favorite scene is a camping scene. It kills me. I think it's so good. Rebecca and her brother Andrew and Emma decide to go camping at the lake, but Andrew has a girlfriend at the time and he brings her. And there's sort of this nod to Meredith Blake from Parrot Trap and how she's kind of like, she's got the long red nails and she dresses really classy and she's a little bit bougie and she can't really rough and tough it. And so Rebecca and Emma are kind of plotting to like get her away because she's going to throw off the whole dynamic. And the way that it just plays out is just really, really freaking cute. Did that come from that movie, or is that something that comes from your own life, or is that just something you just made up in your mind? Is that from a dream?
I love that that's your favorite part because that's actually one of my favorite parts too of the book. It was not from a dream. I grew up watching The Parent Trap. That was like my favorite movie. So that definitely played into the scene. But I think I kind of just knew I wanted something that would kind of show, I guess, the pining on both ends as they're growing up and starting to develop that connection. And I had a lot of fun playing with showing not only how Emma and Andrew start to become closer, but also like weaving in their relationship with Rebecca and Emma. And so I think it was kind of just based on knowing that that was what I wanted to do and then trying to think of something fun for them to do in the summer. Camping came to mind. I used to go camping all the time with my family. Yeah, so I feel like it kind of just I couldn't pinpoint an exact point of inspiration. It just kind of wrote itself once once I started writing.
It's just so good because, as you can imagine, writing a story about a girl from 9 years old to 18, there's a lot of firsts that come up and a lot of, new experiences. And weaving that into like her first time drinking, it was just so good. It was so clever and it was perfect. I laughed a lot of the scene. I swooned a lot of the scene. I giggled. It was great.
Thank you.
I also really liked how you put music like throughout the book. And I read it on my Kindle app. So they start you like at chapter 1. So I actually didn't look in advance. Do you have a playlist for the book?
I have one. It's on my Instagram. I don't have one that's actually like in the book. I thought about it because I definitely the entire time. I was like, I would listen to music for inspiration. I actually had initially named the book The Songs of Summer because the music was more prevalent in it. And I actually cut it back a little, but I just love music so much. And that was something that really inspired a lot of the book, I think.
But yeah, I was gonna say actually, like, I think that the way that you did it, like a lot of the songs you mentioned, I had never heard of.
Hmm.
And I consider myself like pretty in the know with like country music and or like I don't know, what is Zach Bryan? He's not country entirely, but you would mention songs that I didn't know, and so I would like swipe out of my Kindle app and like go to Spotify and like type it in and play it and then like go back to the chapter and it'd be like playing while I was reading it. And it really helped me like immerse myself into what was going on, especially because like you mentioned a little bit of like, and then these lyrics started playing and this made me think of him and whatever, whatever. But letting the song play like really helped me to get into it. And I like that better than like it was making me think that like authors should either put like at the start of the chapter instead of a playlist at the beginning, like at the start of the chapter, listen to the song, or like break the fourth wall and be like, this is a good time to hit play on this song. Because when you listen to book playlists, it like sometimes I'll listen to book playlists when I'm editing an author's book just to kind of help me get in the vibe. And I'll be like editing a sweet chapter and like their third act breakup part of the playlist starts playing. And like, this is just not right. Like
Yeah.
I actually need like 2 hours of this scene worth of music to listen to before I get to that part. And so sometimes you could be listening to the book's playlist and you're reading it, and it's just obviously the songs are just playing much faster than you're reading. And so it's just like kind of setting a different tone. But I thought it was so fun that you would like point out instead of just like, oh, they played this cute song, you would like mention the name of the song. And so then I could play it and then it was like, this is perfect for the moment that I'm in. I thought that was really good because I feel like sometimes playlists can kind of just like move you in a different mood than you're ready for.
I love that you did that because I think that's like the dream is that people would be able to listen to the songs as they're hitting that part in the book. I remember I read, can't remember which book it was, but I'm pretty sure it was an L. Kennedy book. And there's a reference to a Pink song in there. They're like out at the bar. And I was like, I don't know if I know that song. And so I looked it up and listened to it. And it totally changed the scene for me. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to do by referencing the songs in my book because I think, I mean, it inspired me a lot as I was writing, listening to those songs. So then for the reader to be able to listen to them too, I think it just changes the whole reading experience. And that's the dream is that people would listen as they read. But
Yeah, and I normally I wouldn't do that, but it's only because I didn't know the songs. And so like normally if somebody references a song that's like pretty pop, like I know Zach Bryan pretty well. And so when you I think like Sun to Me is in there and I've heard that song a bunch. And so I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of tell the vibe of this, even though it's still good to just like kind of listen to it again. But the other songs I hadn't heard before. And so it got me thinking like I should start doing this more often now. Like even if I know the song, like I should put it on because it just
yeah.
helps like set the tone a little bit. Okay, so how long did it take you to write the book? Were you writing it in summertime?
No, I started it in December.
Ah, so you were mourning summertime.
Yeah, really. I think I started in December and I wrote the first draft in a couple of months. I think I was done probably, I think I was close to done end of January. I don't know if I'd written the last chapter. I had a really hard time writing the ending.
You
For
started it in December and you had a final draft by end of January?
it went pretty quick. I think yeah, it had to,
Wow.
and I came back to it after because my job is really weird where we have they call them busy seasons and we work 60 to 70 hours a week from February to mid-April and then again like middle of August to middle of October. So I hit busy season and put the book aside.
I can't even begin to guess what you do based off of those times of year.
Taxes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Are you CPA?
Hmm.
I hope that you take this as a compliment. I really hope you do because it's meant as one. Like, I would never have guessed that a CPA could write a book like this. Like, it just feels like such a boring job.
Yeah.
And this is the most like lively book. So,
Well, thank you. I do take it as a compliment.
yeah, your creativity is just stifled at work.
Yeah, really. Not a lot of creativity in that job, but I don't know. I guess I have two very different sides of me. practical side and then the more creative side.
Wow. Okay, so sorry to cut you off. So you took a break after you were busy helping people not get arrested by the IRS.
Yeah. Yeah, so I came back to it over the summer and went through and self-edited and then finally got my ending. I think I put it down again for fall busy season, came back to it in November because that was when I actually started telling people, "Hey, I wrote a book and I actually think I want to publish it." Because I think I remember reading, there's a certain part towards the end where Emma's talking with her sister, and she says something about like if you don't take a chance, like you'll never know what's
Hmm.
kind of that vibe. And I was reading it and thinking, oh my gosh, I wrote that. Like those are my words. And I have been talking about maybe publishing the book because I mean there's parts of it that are very personal to me. Like Emma's a big overthinker and I definitely am too. And I'm like, I feel like other people could relate to this. Like maybe someone needs to read this too. And so I wanted to put that out there. And then I read that part of my book and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to put myself out there and share that I wrote this book. So I
Like, well,
did.
I'm inspiring myself right now.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that. But yeah, I think I like stopped right then and there and I sat down on the couch and I recorded a video and posted on my personal Instagram with like 30 followers because I hate social media. And I was like, hey, I wrote this book. If anyone knows anything about publishing it, please let me know. And yeah, everyone was super supportive and I just went from there.
Wow, that's great. So, what feedback did you get from people? Like, what path did you take after that?
I actually got connected. My aunt works with someone who has gone and traditionally published, I think, one book for sure. She might be on her second or third now, but she connected me with her and I talked with her and got some ideas about like creating my social media. She gave me her editor, so that's who I used on my first book and she was so helpful. I learned a lot from her. And then I think there was a lot of just support and like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I never would have guessed. And I think that just gave me the confidence to go forward with it. Yeah. And then definitely the connection with my aunt really helped give me some steam to actually get things moving and make it a real book.
Yeah, how was it working with an editor? Like, had you already had family and friends read it and give you feedback before you gave it to like a professional, quote unquote?
I let my mom read it before I gave it to an editor, and that was it. And she's not really like, and she reads a lot of romance books. Usually I'll buy them and then I pass them down to my mom and my aunt, and we all just like share books.
Hmm.
So she reads a lot of romance, but I mean, she didn't really give me a lot of feedback, just like, oh, it's so good. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
but like, what do I need to fix?
Yeah.
So I think the editor was actually a really good experience. She built up my confidence a lot with telling me what I did right, and then also like helping teach me things to make the book better. And my mom read it again before I published it after the editor, and she said that like it was really good and that it was like a whole new experience reading it a second time with the updates. So yeah, I think it was a positive experience.
Did you enjoy the editing process?
I did. Having the right editor makes a huge difference for sure. I feel like it's been easier than editing my second book. So I think it was just helpful being able to like have some guidance on how to cut things down. She literally went through and mapped out all of the chapters that I had and she had like a little blurb on what the main idea was of the chapter, what the word count was, if things needed to like if they were inconsistent with length, if one was like super long, okay, maybe cut this one down. So she did a lot and I think it was really helpful because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I wrote this book, I'm like, okay, now what? So
Yeah.
I think it was a really good experience to help teach me some things and turn it into something that people would want to read.
And then what about your cover? How did you go about? Did you make it yourself? Did you bring somebody on to help?
I hired a cover designer. It was honestly just kind of browsing Instagram and looking a little bit at some books that I had on my bookshelf and did some research, but I think it ultimately ended up being just someone that I found through Instagram.
Oh my gosh, wait, do you have character art?
I do not.
Do you have pictures of them on your social media?
I have
I'm looking right now.
looked
I don't even
online.
know. I don't even know if I could picture them. Like Rebecca has blonde hair, right?
She's a brunette.
She's a brunette and Emma has blonde hair.
Emma's like a strawberry blonde.
Yeah, I'm
It's
like they're just cutie little blobs in my mind. Like I don't that happens a lot though. I oftentimes will just kind of skim over the description and I'm like I just know the aura of who you are, but I don't really know what you look like.
I feel the same way.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're like deep in there. Yeah, I feel like whenever I read a book though, I realize I just picture like blobs. I don't like I
Mhm.
don't have detailed
Yeah,
pictures
you're
of
just like an amorphous personality more so than
yeah.
you are like a skin color and a eye color and a hair color and a height or whatever. But you knew you didn't want to put characters on the front.
Yeah, I think I know that that's super trendy right now, but I'm a sucker for just like a good object cover when it's really pretty. And I think I knew that I wanted something with the lake, and I just had this vision, I guess, of them sitting on a dock with the sun setting, and I wanted to incorporate the sun with the title being where the sun lights the shadows. That was kind of what I pictured. And I think my cover designer did an amazing job. I got the cover back and I started crying. Like I was so excited.
Oh,
So
you
uh,
didn't cry when you wrote Rebecca dying, but you cried
I
when you saw the
know.
cover.
I know. Well, I think seeing the cover, like it was a moment when I realized like I did it. I
hmm
wrote this book and it's a real thing. I cried when I got the cover and I cried when I got like the first copy of it. So
Oh, yeah, that's so exciting.
yeah.
Okay, so reversing like way back prior to this mystery boy who visited you in your dream, you said you had written a little bit before, like you enjoyed writing, but you hadn't really done anything like seriously.
Yeah, my love for writing started when I was in fourth grade. I had this teacher that she would like sing these songs about similes and onomatopoeias and all these different writing techniques, and I loved it. When we got to that was like my first introduction to more of like fictional writing because we would get to write some essays still, but they were stories that we got to make up with just random prompts. I think I wrote about like dragons and stuff for school. So I started writing in fourth grade. I would write short stories all the time. I wrote a story about cows. And
What did the cows do?
I don't even remember. It was called It's a Wonderful Life. Very original.
It's a wonderful life being a cow.
It was just a happy story about cows. There might have honestly been a little bit of a love story in there. I'm not sure. It was not very long.
Between the cows?
Yeah, I don't
Oh
know.
my gosh, that's so cute.
I think my grandparents might still have it like pinned on their bulletin board in the office somewhere. But yeah, so I wrote some like shorter stories. I wrote it was actually kind of a love story about the Oregon Trail. I was obsessed with the Oregon Trail.
Oh, weren't we all? I
Yeah.
went through a phase for that too. Heck yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Obsessed. I don't know why, but yeah. And I never finished that one. But it was 100 something pages. It was just something like I would come home from school and couldn't wait to write and just would write. And I
I'm so
think
sorry to take us on this tangent, but I'm not gonna be able to stop thinking about this. Did your school do like the Oregon Trail where you act out the Oregon Trail? Do you guys do that?
no, we did not. We had like a whole unit on it, which is where the obsession came from. But what did you do to act it out?
Gosh, what grade were we in? This might have been like fifth grade. It might have been like the cool thing you got to do when you're in fifth grade. But you got partnered with a group. You had to build like a wagon.
Oh
And
my
then on the
God.
day, everybody would go and circle like the field,
Uh-huh.
pulling their wagon. And you would just spend all day like you're out on the Oregon Trail. Like I think you got like a little bag of snacks and you had to like kind of role play whatever. They would like muddy some of the track so that you had to pull it through it. And I was the wife and I had my husband Josh and we had a little baby doll and two kids who were other kids in our grade. And we had to wear the outfits, and we went to my friend's house to build this wagon. And it was kind of like one of those carts at Home Depot that you would pull, a little bit smaller, and it was like crated. And her dad helped us like build wood slats on the side, and then we use like wire to create like little tunnels over the top so we could drape fabric so that we could be like in the shade for some of it. And we would take turns like sitting in the wagon and then kind of pull each other in it. And I think that things would happen to you. Like I think as you walk around, it would be like a scurvy is one thing that I'm thinking of, but that's not right. But something like that. They would give you like a card and it's like your kid died or whatever. And then you had to pull them in the wagon because they couldn't walk.
Oh my
And that's just like, I haven't thought about that in like decades probably. And then you said Oregon Trail. And I was like, I also got obsessed with that. We role played.
Oh my gosh. That would have been fun as a kid. I feel like
it was immersive.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, you wrote the Oregon Trail short stories.
Yeah, I think after that I didn't really come back to writing probably until Where the Sun Lights the Shadows. Just I think school started to pick up and I was doing after school sports and all of that. And I think it was just not, I wasn't a little kid with a dream anymore. Like I think I used to say that I wanted to be a writer back in like 4th grade. And then it evolved to an editor because that was a more practical way to. And then I somehow made it into accounting instead.
Author to CPA. Life comes at you fast.
Yeah, it does. I think actually middle school I used to write a newsletter and I would send it out to my family and I would like talk about my sports and how school was going and stuff like that.
That's so cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the last of my writing until I came back to it just randomly one day.
Wow, that's crazy. And so, well, I feel like I'm gonna say you got lucky, but I'm guessing that like because you had such this like strong revelation of this book and you said that it just kind of came to you as pretty easy to write, that it felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I love that you can have a full-time job and then people can write books. Like I think that's so great because there's like that's basically everybody who's on this podcast is like, yeah, I started out thinking that authors don't make any money and I have all these creative ideas and stuff, but I can't make a living out of it. And so they go, they do their corporate job, they do their 9 to 5, and then they come home and they write these really awesome stories, which is very cool.
Yeah.
But have you had the same experience like starting on the second book? Because I could have guessed, I think that maybe you'd go in the cowboy direction. Like you have some nods to that in the first book, but it's kind of a whole new, like cowboy romances are a whole new genre. So does it feel as flowery as the first one did?
Probably not. I think it's a little bit maybe heavier themes because I deal a lot with anxiety through the book or talk a lot about anxiety in the book. So I feel like that felt a little bit heavier. And then I guess
heavier than Rebecca dying.
I know. I know that's messed up. I think maybe because like I deal with anxiety myself and I haven't dealt with my best friend dying, thankfully. So I think it's more like being able to relate to that makes it feel heavier for me. Yeah, but I think there's also like, I mean, I still get to have a lot of fun with the small town aspect and having some quirky characters. And I feel like there's still a Rebecca-esque character in the book that's just that like fun, bubbly person.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But the Sun Lights the Shadows, it's like very much so driven on these 3 characters. And then Danny, Emma's sister, starts to emerge a little bit more later in the book. But the parents don't play like a huge role. And it's mostly just focused on the summer. And thank goodness Angie just floats in and floats right back out. And so it's pretty central to these 3 characters. But because you're now writing a book that's part of a series, do you find that it's like more enjoyable or harder to now create like characters all around that have their own little personalities and are going to play a role in this book, but then also probably will have their own down the line?
I've had a lot of fun with it. I have like a Word document with all the characters and like their physical traits and different things so that I can go back and reference that later. I've already got playlists for the 3 books that I have planned in the series with just like vibes. I literally listen to
vibes come first, words come later.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun. It poses a new challenge for sure because I have to think forward for the next books and make sure that I'm not putting myself into a corner with the first book because
Hmm.
of things that I want to happen in the next books. And so there's a lot of like planning, which I didn't do a lot of with
Hmm.
Sunlights the Shadows initially. So that's been a little bit of a challenge for me, but I'm really enjoying getting to have all these characters and I'm really excited. I was telling my boyfriend this the other day. I'm obsessed with like books and TV shows that have like an ensemble cast. So I think that's why I love like small towns and that's why I'm so excited about this next series because you'll get to see like the same characters throughout the books and I think that's going to be so fun.
Hmm. Are you a fan of Schitt's Creek?
Yes, I am.
That's like the first one that comes to mind.
Love that.
Is now the busy season? Did you used to mention one a couple of months in the fall? Is this your work busy season now?
Yeah. Monday is a big deadline for partnerships, and then individuals, there's October 15th for 6 month extensions.
I see. So your small town folks are put on hold until after that?
A little bit. I've been trying to like do some edits throughout. Usually like Sundays are like my dedicated day. I'll plan social media for the week. I'll edit for a few hours. And I'm like, do not disturb. I'm doing everything stuff. But these last couple weeks, work has hit pretty hard. And yeah, and I've had some like I went back to visit family last weekend while they were visiting from out of state. So it was like, okay, I'm not gonna get my writing done on Sunday, but that's okay.
Well, Godspeed. I wish you the best of luck and getting this new series up and going. Thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing your journey, sharing even the privacy of your dreams. You can find out more about Jenna's work on her Instagram, Jenna Rogers Books. That's Rogers Rogers. It's too late. It's too late for me. Jenna Rogers Rogers. I was like, is that a J or a G? Anyways, or you can visit her website, www.jennarogersbooks.com. I'm not going to spell it again. If you haven't already and you are mourning the end of summer and want to hang on just a little bit longer, go run and download Where the Sun Lights the Shadows for a healthy hit of summer right to the veins. And we'll see you next time.